Welcome to the show with Joe. I am Joe, and today we're going to jump into... I came across an article on Yahoo News, which is not the best source for non-biased stories, but I had to bring some respect to my man's name here. I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not like a avid InfoWars listener, but that's a show that Alex Jones has run for, I believe it's like 30 years now. And in case you haven't heard, I mean, he's been in an ongoing legal battle due to the Sandy Hook accusations, where Alex Jones says it was not real, and then it was a psyop, and all this other stuff. Turns out it was definitely real. Well, the problem is the family sued Alex Jones, and they somehow won a giant lawsuit, which I'm surprised nobody questioned. I think it's got to be one of the biggest lawsuits ever won by somebody, which it was, I believe the total was $1.1 billion. It was in the billions. And after all this time of this legal battle happening and seeing how much Alex Jones would actually lose, he ended up being pretty much, it just never stopped coming for him. He had to end up selling InfoWars, and yesterday was supposed to be his last day, and he did a sign off, which was a pretty epic rant apparently. But before I dive into that, like that's just where we are, and just bringing the full story full circle here. If you don't know what The Onion is, that is a like satire. I can't say that. I can hear it in my head, but I can't say it. Satire, but like the plural, satiristic, can't say that word. Type of media outlet that posts on Twitter, and they get like clicks because they're like over the top, opposite direction of what the real news are. But it's known that like when the internet was first coming up, The Onion was the shit. Like it was great. And then it fell off big time. And it used to be funny, and now like the comedy doesn't hit exactly the same, or like they kind of lean one direction rather than another, and it kind of corners their audience to rally around them versus not. I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Like Joe Rogan's not comedy, but like the opposite of The Onion would be like the news, I guess. But before we keep going with that, just real quick, in case you don't know Alex Jones and InfoWars, which again, I don't really watch all that much, I'm going to scroll down this list here because it's the things that Alex Jones got right and predicted correctly. So 9/11, I mean, you're coming in hot, right? Alex Jones precisely predicted the terrorist attacks on September 11th several months before they happened. He warned of an imminent terrorist attack, identifying the World Trade Center as the target, and called their scapegoat Osama bin Laden. Jones blamed the tragedy on the Saudi Arabians and the U.S. federal government for his treasonous inaction and facilitation. Above all else, this warning should legitimize Alex Jones and wake Americans up to the fact that we're not the shining beacon of freedom we're consistently told we are. That was definitely a bombshell. What was the next one? Oh, Epstein's Island. So this one I did hear. He went on Joe Rogan in 2015 with Tim Dillon as a guest. And man, it was, when I first heard it, it was really crazy to listen to and almost unbelievable. And it sounded so outlandish that there's no way. There's no way. Like he knew it all the way back in 2015. So Alex Jones knew about Epstein's Island and brought it up and was trying to like be a horn for it. Alex Jones was discussing and bringing on guests to talk about the island on his podcast years before the disgusting truth of Epstein's Island became mainstream. On Lex Friedman's podcast, Joe Rogan said about Alex Jones, "This guy was telling me about Epstein's Island a fucking decade ago. To this day, nobody has been persecuted or identified for practicing pedophilia, despite authorities possessing Epstein's detailed travel logs on the island." Alex Jones also claimed global elitists were practicing satanic rituals involving child sacrifice on the islands, like Epstein that compromised of children supplied by cartels. He described Epstein's Island as having 2 levels. Level 1 is pedophilia, and level 2 is child sacrifice. Both are used to blackmail and control the elites. I strongly suggest going and listening to the Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon podcast on Joe Rogan. Then Bohemian Grove, and this also is probably the first video that, first thing that went viral for Alex Jones. And it was also backed up by, believe it or not, Richard Nixon, who had, there was like an audio recording in his office, and he's talking about how Bohemian Grove is a bunch of slurs for gay people. But yeah, in 2000, Alex Jones infiltrated that's what it was. So he had a home video camera, and he snuck into Bohemian Grove, and basically it's a place where all these like higher up level actors, like political people, scientists all go, and they like worship this giant statue, and it's a bird statue, and I believe they light it on fire afterwards, once their ceremony's going. But it sounds unbelievable, but watch the video. It's him on camera sneaking in. Alex Jones infiltrated the exclusive club and recorded his experience in a documentary, Dark Secrets of Bohemian Grove. Over a decade later, the Washington Post confirms Jones' claim in their 2011 report. For over 150 years, members of the global elites have held secret meetings in the ancient redwood forest of Monte Rio, Northern California, where they worship Moloch, a Canaanite deity associated in biblical sources with the practice of child sacrifice. He said there was no child sacrifice there, but just the statue. Biblically, Moloch was worshipped by the Canaanites, Phoenicians, and a couple of Jew apostate kings. At Bohemian Grove, presidents, artists, intellectuals, billionaires, actors, kings, and politicians congregated and worshipped an owl god form of Moloch, practice rituals, sacrificing child, I don't know what that word is, and participate in orgies and gay sex. A few notable members of the Bohemian Grove Club are George H.W. Bush, Clint Eastwood, Newt Gingrich, Herbert Hoover, Henry Kissinger, Jack London, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Teddy Roosevelt, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't think Nixon went. But it's still crazy. I mean, he infiltrated and proved it after 150 years of secrecy. Most recently, apparently, they saw Conan O'Brien was there, which is crazy. Next one he called was COVID-19. I mean, all the big stuff, right? Alex Jones' self-described most accurate prediction happened over a decade ago after he read the Rockefeller Foundation's white paper, Operation Lockstep. In the report, they described using a virus to bring in a world government. On Tucker Carlson's podcast, Alex Jones said they described using a virus to bring in world government, to bring in world medical ID, and that they would then build the social credit score off of, and that they would make people wear masks for fear, and that they would shut down sporting events and things like that, and basically to phase in this new tyranny, which all of that happened except for the big stuff, right? Or did it? The next one he predicted was the Russian-Ukrainian war. In October 21st, 2021, Alex Jones warned of a giant war in February. Then on December 8th, 2021, he said, I predicted the Russians are gonna roll in. They're already there. And then on February 24th, 2022, Russian tanks rolled across the Ukrainian border. Wow. This is probably one of his most... Oh, man, he's got so many. See? This one you'll see a lot. Like, you'll see a lot of memes of Alex Jones and, like, freaking out saying, they turned the frogs gay. But this is why. So Jones claimed that there are chemicals in the water supply that are turning frogs gay. Naturally, the seemingly outlandish claim made low-hanging fruit of his ridicule and consumer engagement. So this claim was heavily reported and went viral, but Alex Jones was right about this. You're like, what? Atrazine is the chemical Jones is referencing, and according to the Environmental Working Group, it is the most commonly found pesticide in our tap water. According to a 2010 study, the University of California, Berkeley biologists, 75% of male frogs exposed to atrazine are chemically castrated and emasculated, unable to naturally reproduce. More disturbingly, a little more than 10% of male frogs actually turned into females, able to reproduce with males and birth offspring. In 2010, atrazine contaminated watersheds and drinking water systems throughout the Midwest and South. Apparently, 75% of stream water and about 40% of all groundwater samples from the agricultural areas tested in an extensive U.S. Geological Survey study contained atrazine. In a 2015 experiment, EWG tested public water systems nationwide, showing that atrazine was detected in more than 800 systems in 19 states at levels exceeding a healthy protective guideline. High levels of atrazine were found in 237 water systems serving more than 3 million people in Texas and 192 serving more than 1 million people in Kansas. Other states struggling with widespread atrazine contamination of drinking water are Kentucky, Missouri, Ohio. We have poison in our water supply that chemically castrates men. That is a fact. The only question is whether it's due to government incompetence or a deliberate betrayal worthy of a French Revolution-esque overthrow of the federal government. Now, obviously, this site is definitely all in on Alex Jones, but at the same time, you can't. How does he guess that, right? Next up, and last, it looks like, is Pizzagate. Now, this one is hotly debated, and maybe it's not a pinpoint. Like, before I read, I haven't read this yet, so before I read this, like, maybe it's not a pinpoint or like a bullseye on it, but definitely, if you're looking at the Epstein files, you see a lot of references to pizza and graping and a lot of like code words in there, and if you put child or kid in place of pizza, it sure seems like something Epsteinish going on in the Epstein files. Pizzagate. While Jones did not predict or start the Pizzagate conspiracy theory, he promoted it on his website, and the media often attacks him for advancing the theory. So I think it's important to include it for Jones's credibility. Also agree. And there was also the person that broke it was a local news guy who got fired, and 10 years later is still sticking to his guns and now has his own podcast now, which is pretty neat. After pushing the theory on his website, Jones later walked back and apologized for involvement in the theory after a gunman went to Comet Pizza to help the children he thought were in the basement. His several public walkbacks and apologies are part of the reason some view him as a plant. The conspiracy theory comes from a WikiLeaks release of 50,000 emails from Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta. To be clear, no email explicitly mentions children or PDF file, but dozens of strangely worded emails mentioning pizza or handkerchief were suspected of being coded language for children. The scandal centers around Comet Ping Pong, a local D.C. pizzeria. The media ignores the fact that Comet was specifically mentioned in the emails a dozen or so times. The owner of Comet, James, this guy, who is openly gay, is a friend of John Podesta and dated David Brock, CEO of Media Matters for America, a George Soros-funded propaganda machine that was sued for illegally assisting Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. The rabbit hole goes even deeper with the strange connection to Comet Pizza, as with another pizza place 3 doors down, Besta Pizza, whose logo contained a symbol commonly used by PDF files to express their preference to children. Besta Pizza changed its logo soon after the online community pointed it out. Despite all the suspicions and facts, there has not been a single public investigation of the theory by local police or the FBI. And for the cherry on top of this, the Jewish journalist credited with debunking the theory, Slade Shomer, was recently charged with 4 counts of child pornography, including one he produced himself. Sommer was released on a $100,000 bail. Tell me that's not insane. Tell me that's not insane. That's so crazy. So back to our current time. So just to give Alex some credibility there, like he's not this crazy conspiracy that all these news people say. And I'm not saying that he's this go-to guy for anything, but I will say that he does a hell of a lot of research, and sometimes he definitely hits the target dead on. And it seems to be for a lot of big events. So this article is my problem. I saw this today, and Alex Jones signs off from InfoWars with a furious final meltdown. So this was, I guess it was May 1st, technically. Alex, let's just read it because it makes me mad after reading all of that. Alex Jones sat hunched over, and sorry, one more thing. Again, forced to sell his company. Right now, The Onion is trying to buy InfoWars, Alex Jones's website podcast, and turn it into all satire. So Alex Jones is pretty serious about conspiracies on his show. The Onion wants to buy it and make a mockery of basically everything he did, and any money off of the website will go to the Sandy Hook families, even though, I mean, didn't they just win a 1 point something billion lawsuit? Sounds a little fishy. And let's talk about who's buying it in here too, like the CEO. Alex sat hunched over on his desk like a man watching his own house burn down while trying to sell the embers for profit. See, just crazy language. The final moments of the InfoWars era didn't arrive with a dignified whimper or a professional handshake. They came wrapped in a primal, throat-shredding scream that felt like a culmination of 30 years of pure, unfiltered paranoia. But we just talked about everything that he had right? So is it paranoia, or is it just being freaked out that there's no changing the system? For decades, the Austin-based Firebrand has operated as the loudest voice in the alternative media wilderness, carving out a digital empire that blurred the lines between news, performance art, and a fever dream. But as the clock ran out of his control over the platform, Jones didn't opt for a graceful exit. Instead, he leaned into chaos, transforming his sign-off into a dizzying spectacle of defiance that targeted everyone from federal agencies to the writers of satirical websites. It was a raw, vicious display of a man losing his kingdom and deciding to go out swinging at the ghosts in the room. The comedy of tragedy, the primal catalyst for his historic meltdown, was the surreal reality of the Onion winning bankruptcy auction to acquire Jones's life work. The irony is almost too heavy for a man who spent his career decrying fake news to lose his bullhorn to a company that invented the genre for laughs. During the final broadcast, Jones' face reached a shade of crimson, usually reserved for emergency flares, as he took aim at Ben Collins, the CEO of the satirical outlet. Jones didn't disagree with the takeover. He characterized the transition as spiritual assault, labeling Collins a confessed Satanist in a desperate attempt to frame his legal defeat as a holy war. This wasn't a standard corporate transition. It was a collision of two completely different realities, with Jones standing in the wreckage trying to convince his audience the joke was actually on the world. The rhetoric throughout the broadcast was vintage Jones, yet it carried an edge of genuine desperation. He spent significant time claiming that his grueling defamation court proceedings, which resulted in a massive $1.4 billion judgment for the families of Sandy Hook victims, were orchestrated by the CIA. By framing his legal downfall as a scripted intelligence operation, Jones managed to maintain his status as a martyr in the eyes of his info warriors. He barked at the lens, his voice cracked under the strain of his own intensity as he warned that the takeover of the Onion was a move to literally try to misrepresent his brand. The spectacle served as a reminder that for Jones, the truth has always been secondary to the narrative of being an outsider under constant attack. Yeah, so, I mean, my thoughts here are, okay, Alex Jones made a mistake. He definitely said something that wasn't true, and maybe it emotionally hurt the family, of course. Like, their kids, got killed, right? But did he do anything other than say words? And my other question is, if, let's pretend Joe Rogan had something similar happen, I don't think he'd end up in court like that. Secondly, I think that if someone took over Joe Rogan and made a comedy podcast, like the opposite of this situation, joke. If Joe Rogan, if it was taken over by someone and they made it like a, I don't know, pro-COVID positive Kamala act saying, or a show saying that the Joe Rogan Experience is saying this type of thing, I have a feeling Joe Rogan would sue. So them taking this over, and InfoWars is synonymous with Alex Jones, if that seems like he could sue if they started that for defamation because it's tied to his name, but I'm not a lawyer. With the support of Sandy Hook families, the steering is like, yeah, we know. As of May 2nd, 2026, the transition remains partially paralyzed. A Texas appeals court recently issued a stay, pausing the imminent transfer of assets to the court-appointed receiver. The legal hiccup has created a bizarre limbo where the physical studio and the digital archives are caught between the old guard and the new satirist. Now, that's interesting, right? It's basically saying, oh yeah, here you go, there's more. Ben Collins expressed his frustration with the delay, noting that the legal system's willingness to entertain these late-stage maneuvers has been freshly surprising. The plan for the new InfoWars, arguably the most ambitious piece of performance art in modern media, creative director Tim Heidecker and the team at Global Tetrahedron, parent company of The Onion, intend to transform the site into a parody of parody of its former self. Rather than simply shutting it down, they want to use the existing infrastructure to mock every conspiracy theory that built the platform. Yeah, it says it's symbolic decapitation. So as far as Alex Jones, even as his flagship sinks, Jones already is busy building a lifeboat. Throughout the final broadcast, he pivoted seamlessly from apocalyptic warnings to blatant sales pitches. He urged his audience to migrate to new platforms and stock up on limited edition apparel, framing the purchase of a t-shirt as an act of political resistance. Okay, I mean, yeah, you're taking his whole entire business, and that's all the man loves to do. Of course he's going to freaking start a new podcast or a new website because you guys took this one from him. And my prediction, if I'm Alex Joning, I bet you there will be more followers of Alex Jones after this because The Onion sucks and this is fucked. One of the people involved is Tim Heidecker. He's going to be, I don't know what he's going to be exactly, but Tim Heidecker was from the Tim and Eric movies, which all suck. I think there was maybe one good one. They had 20 spinoffs. So since then, Tim Heidecker really went left wing and started his own podcast where he wears clear glasses now. So that makes him smart, obviously. He's a jerk to the people that work there. He's very non-confrontational, but wants to get his snarky remarks in. Just a classic person who you think would run The Onion. Jeffrey Lawson, I was looking them up because Alex Jones called them Satanists, but Jeff Lawson, is I believe it's not very clear when you're searching it, but it seems to be that he is either the CEO or a higher up in Tetrahedron, which is the company that owns The Onion. Jeffrey Lawson is the co-founder of Twilio in 2008. And successfully guided it to becoming a leading cloud communication platform. But here's the thing, he did bad at making money, so they had him step down as CEO from that. Never heard of that company, by the way. I said, is there anything ethically wrong that he did? And basically, Google is saying no. Just bad at managing. So there's your first step, bad management. You got a bad face of the company. People do tend to like Tim Heidecker, but the same way that people love what's the one meme where the guy's sitting at a table with his legs crossed and he's starting an argument or something like that. It's just his legs crossed over his other and he just sits there and asks for questions. I forget his name. He's super Republican. Tim Heidecker is the opposite of him. So yeah, Jeffrey Lawson, owner, incompetent. Tim Heidecker wasn't funny for the last 20 years and even maybe wasn't funny 20 years ago. And then Ben Collins. All right. So this is the main guy, the CEO of The Onion, even though if you type in on all of the AI stuff, is Ben Collins the CEO of The Onion? ChatGPT, for example, said no. And I looked it up and then it said, I was like, hey, I just said Ben Collins was CEO. So what's the deal? And they're like, oh, no, you're right. Come on. What is this? So here's my thing with Ben Collins. So he's this warrior with Tim Heidecker right now trying to say oh yeah, we're going to decapitate the head of Alex Jones because of his show because he said the wrong thing and he was wrong about this. Well, Ben Collins apparently was a reporter, and Ben Collins made a comment on Hamas governance in Gaza. In a social media post, Collins stated, if only Gaza wasn't ruled by Hamas, which the far-right government of Israel has absolutely no hand in the facilitating or encouraging. This reflected his view. Basically what he did was he said, he faced errors in reporting. So he was basically saying that Hamas was a big problem, right? He was saying that Hamas is, if Gaza wasn't ruled by Hamas, which definitely it isn't, any delay in reporting horrific casualty numbers represented a profound moral failing. So you're saying, right? So he's all up in arms right now and all social warrioring it right now, saying that Alex Jones is a bad guy for saying that Sandy Hook didn't happen. Ben Collins is saying that somebody that didn't kill anyone isn't ran by anyone, is actually ran by them, and it's their responsibility for like all of this turmoil and deaths overseas, right? Isn't that kinda the same thing? Isn't that saying somebody did something that they didn't versus somebody saying something that didn't happen but did? I mean, it's all the same thing. I just don't get that piece of it. Like, these guys aren't good guys. And Alex Jones seems to be one of the only people that actually try to do research and call out the bullshit. If you disagree with him or not, I know he had some stuff with Erica Kirk where Candace Owens and like all the other similar area type reporting people all thought that there was something fishy going on with Erica Kirk, which, I mean, it's convincing if you listen to him. Especially when you find out that Erica Kirk was appointed to the same position as Charlie Kirk in the government, which is pretty insane. I'm sorry. I don't know if it was it's government, right? The military is government. It was like a Navy position. And she's also got some weird ties. I would get into that later, but for right now, I'm focusing on Alex Jones, and I just think this whole situation's messed up. I hope it gets tied up. And if not, I hope Alex Jones gets a new site, because I think a lot more people will end up going there. And then the last piece, $1.4 billion to all the families for Sandy Hook. They're already millionaires, right? So what exactly is the website supposed to do? Why are you framing it as if you're going to help them? I don't know. But that was an article that made me upset today. So, more serious, but this has been The Show with Joe. Thank you for watching, and smell you later.